Hi, my name's Laura Gregory and I'm an ER consultant for Grow HR, and the purpose of this vlog is to talk you through briefly the recent announcement regarding the Trans-Tasman travel bubble operating as of the 19th of April. So what this in essence means is the Director General of Health considers it low risk, the transmission of COVID-19 between New Zealand and Australia, and on that basis quarantine-free travel will be introduced as at the 19th of April between Australia and New Zealand. So certainly great news for both countries. However, what that will probably mean for you as employers is that you will have some questions, because I think it's inevitable that you'll have employees wishing to travel abroad to Australia as part of their annual leave entitlements. So the first question that may spring to mind for you is, do employees have a duty or an obligation to inform you, the employer, as to their intentions regarding travel abroad for any annual leave? And I think the answer to that is it is not unreasonable for an employer to ask when an employee requests annual leave as to whether they will be travelling abroad as part of that. So I think the duty of good faith, which obviously underpins any employment relationship, should apply. Employees and employers have a obligation not to mislead or deceive each other, and likewise to remain responsive and communicative. So on that basis, it is perfectly reasonable for you as an employer to ask any employee that requests annual leave whether or not they intend to travel abroad as part of their holiday, and you would expect an open and honest answer with respect to that. Now, it will obviously depend in terms of what business you operate as to how high risk this will be. So if, for example, you operate in the medical profession, or for example a rest home, if this individual is a caregiver in a rest home, then there will be certain things that you will need to consider as part of this. And I think whether or not they undertake a COVID-19 test upon their return and isolate or work from home if that's possible for that duration, I think there's definitely things that need to be considered as part of this, as part of the bigger picture. Because also as well, what happens, we don't know what's going to happen as a result of this Trans-Tasman bubble operating and opening up. So what, for example, if a subsequent lockdown is announced, would happen to your employee should they be delayed in Australia and therefore delayed in their return to work? So is there the ability for them to work remotely? Are there enough people on the ground at work to undertake their role in their absence? So a lot of things to consider as part of this. And I think it's likely to be a question, well, could we refuse an employee's request for annual leave? And I think unless it can clearly be illustrated or shown that such travel would result in a significant risk to the workplace and there are no alternatives, so it's about also the requirement to look at alternatives, it is unlikely that refusal of annual leave on the basis of wanting to travel abroad would be considered as reasonable. So I think there's a human rights issue there around refusing travel abroad. So I think you really need to be open as an employer to what are the alternatives, what are the considerations, what are the complexities, and what needs to be put in place. I think it's really important as employers that you make it very clear to employees travelling abroad what would happen if, for example, they were delayed in their return. What would it be unpaid leave? Would it be annual leave taken if they've got any remaining, and all that good stuff? So take all that stuff into account and make sure it's all clear before the holiday commences if possible. I think as well, what's really fundamental here is what a reasonable employer would do in the circumstances, and I think that's going to be the test that you'll need to come back to. What would a reasonable employer do in the circumstances, and work through it that way. So if you have any questions as you enter into employees travelling abroad, then please feel free to get in touch with either myself or another member of the HR team who would be happy to advise and assist you during this. Many thanks.